Yo, it's Buckoboi. I know I'm kinda late to the review thing, but I didn't realize how much I had to say, and after doing the script about 5 times now, I think I finally made my conclusion. This game sucks. It actually f***ing stinks. I know I said I would do a Gotham Knights journey, but after playing the game, I couldn't bring myself to do it. Despite the many trailers that I found to be concerning, I had still held on to some hope that this game could find its niche and that I would find it to be fun to play. That was not the case. It somehow failed to reach my already low expectations, and after putting about 15.8 hours into the game, I had seen and played enough. I never had the urge to pick the game back up, and I just ended up spoiling the game for myself because I did not want to go back. Now I can hear the Gotham Knights meat writers.
Well, I enjoyed the game. It really doesn't deserve the hate that it gets. It's actually pretty fun. Oh, don't compare it to Arkham. It's not an Arkham game.
Hey, do me a favor. Shut the fuck up. Quick history lesson. Before Arkham, superhero games were not taken seriously. Majority of them were dog shit, except for this bad boy right here. And with the release of Arkham Asylum, Rocksteady had set the foundation for what a great superhero game could be, for what it should be. I am not suggesting to copy and paste the same formula because change can potentially be good, but it is the execution of how these changes were made in Gotham Knights that did not do Warner Bros. Montreal any favors. But to say you can't compare it to Arkham because it's not, is possibly the most brain-dead argument I've ever heard. Whether you like it or not, Montreal has taken fundamental gameplay mechanics from the Arkham games, such as free-flowing combat without the flowing part, stealth mechanics, or what's left of it, Barbara's gliding mechanics, and AR vision, and so much more. And for God's sakes, it's from the same studio who brought you Arkham Origins.
Well, actually, Buckoboi, it's not made by the same—
Shut up! Shut the fuck up! All I hear is constant excuses for this barely mediocre game. Before I move on, I would like to address the individuals who make it their duty to defend this game's honor, and are confused as to why the game receives the flack that it does. This community, if you can even call it that, I believe to be, for the most part, a group of deluded writers who have zero standards. And some of these Gotham Knights diehards somehow believe that this game should be in the running for Game of the Year. I understand enjoying a game, despite its many flaws and poor reviews. I have a few guilty pleasures of my own. However, I'm not compromising my standards or telling other people to buy the game because I find it to be subjectively fun. So let's not pretend that this game is doing anything out of the ordinary or spectacular. Me saying that the game is barely mediocre is not subjective. This is not just my opinion. The general consensus across the board, from professional reviewers alike, is that the game is just okay, or as the kids say today, mid. The goal of this video is to provide a perspective and an honest review of the game so that you can decide how best to spend your hard-earned money. Because this game is not worth its full asking price, and especially not its egregious variant that provides extra content. So with that out of the way, let me share some of the reasons I decided to drop this game and move on to other things. Number 1, performance.
Oh, here he goes. 30 FPS. Dude, there are multiple AAA titles that are locked at 30 FPS. Playing a game locked at 30 FPS in 2022 is fine. It's playable. Lower your standards.
This is true. There are plenty of other games that were locked at 30 FPS for its initial release. Some of the games that these fans like to bring up being Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War, Red Dead Redemption 2, Spider-Man, and even Arkham Knight. All of these games were locked at 30 FPS for its release. However, all of these games were released 4+ years ago, and since then, there has been some giant leaps in gaming performance. In addition to that, all of these games have been re-released to run at higher frame rates with greater capabilities for greater performance, and all these games mentioned were actually good. So this game has no excuse to look as mediocre as it does and to run this piss poor. To have 0 settings that affect performance for consoles in 2022 is criminal, and it screams I can't be bothered. I play on PC, so why am I even complaining? Because this game runs like a pile of dog shit on PC too. I have an RTX 3080 and a Ryzen 5800X, so for the non-PC nerds out there, that just means very good. To give you guys some perspective, I can run Spider-Man PC at high graphics settings and could get anywhere from 90 to 115 frames, and with ray tracing high settings, I can push anywhere upwards of 70 FPS. People struggle to run Gotham Knights with a 4090, maxing out all settings. Not to get too much into the technical side of things, but the 4090 is the top of the line graphics card. That just means super good. Yet, you can't hold a solid 60 in Gotham Knights? This game is not graphically impressive by any measure, and the worst part is getting around the city with the constant frame drops that this game has. In an indoor setting, I would hit the 165 FPS my monitor is capped at, but outdoors, where I spend the majority of my time, it was another thing entirely. Then I would run into the occasional bug that would have my game running at a solid 7 frames per second. With the constant texture pop-ins from just traveling around the city, to small details seemingly being overlooked, it makes the game feel cheap, and ultimately makes you appreciate other games that came before it. To me, it just feels like minimal effort was put in. Number 2, movement and traversal. To start with just basic movement, walking around, the characters feel odd to control. I found myself getting stuck on random objects. Oh my god! And during stealth, I would try to jump down behind an enemy, and instead, my character would jump out and forwards at like a 45-degree angle, which would ruin the already boring stealth mechanics. And moving around the city. This is what we gotta do, boys. If you don't find this fun, you're a hater. Before you receive your main form of traversal, you have a grapple hook that doesn't obey the laws of physics, and an extremely slow bike that is just faster than the average Gotham citizen's vehicle. And this is the extent of how exciting this is. Oh, let me pop a wheelie. Woo! He's doing a wheelie! Woo! Let me do a wheelie! So in summary, wheelie go wee, and drift go skirt skirt. And both ways of getting around this huge lifeless city is an actual bear. And what makes matters worse is that your knighthood ability, or main form of traversal, is locked behind a tedious grind. Someone tell me, why in the f*** do I need to grind to receive my main form of traversal?
Why? Because f*** them, that's why.
It's filler. The game lacks substantial content, so they have to add in meaningless objectives to make the game last longer. And I say meaningless because there is no correlation to the story as to why our heroes unlock their main form of traversal, because you will need to defeat 5 tanks and stop 10 premeditated crimes around the city to unlock your knighthood ability. Afterwards, what you are rewarded with is a silly clip of your character walking up to the Batman shrine. After dramatically staring at his belongings and appearing to be in deep thought, your character suddenly has an epiphany. After playing on your iPad for a bit, boom! You've unlocked your main form of traversal. Good work, Knight. Now go do that with the other 3. Go f*** yourself.
Using teleportation tech from the Justice League satellite, I bet I could zap myself short distances in a fight. Almost like a ghost. Oh, this is gonna be so cool.
Who wrote this script? All forms of traversal are just as boring as they look. Yeah, surprisingly, it doesn't make you feel like a badass gliding around with Nightwing's static Fortnite glider, using Red Hood's mystical soul leap, whatever the f this is, and Barbara's inferior gliding mechanics under Arkham and Lego Batman. Number 3. Combat. I don't want to say that combat is serviceable, because it's not. It's super forced and repetitive, and it's really all you're doing for the entirety of the game. Oh, no way, that's all you're doing for the entirety of an action RPG game? Relax, hear me out. There is no stealth because you can just fight your way through any situation. Guns don't have the same impact as they would in like Arkham games. Combat's main issue roots from it being super slow. Both the heroes and enemies heavily telegraph their hits, and it seems that you're moving in slow motion at all times.
Well, Arkham games and Spider-Man had very repetitive combat systems.
I think that's a fair argument. While combat in both of these games were very easy and repetitive, it wasn't brain dead or frustrating to work around. Both of these games flowed extremely well, And with a different variety of gadgets at your disposal, you could always mix up your combat engagements. You are not just able to hit one button and win if you are playing at higher difficulties. They both required you to have appropriate timing to dodge and counter to build a combat flow that rewarded you with special takedowns and momentum shifts, all while making you feel like a goddamn unstoppable superhero. But not in this game. It's just one big f***ing evade fest, and a slow one at that. Evading is easily one of Gotham Knights' worst features. With it being the only way to defend yourself, it breaks up the flow of combat. If you're fighting multiple enemies, you're constantly having to evade attacks from all different directions. It's disgusting. There is no real purpose for heavy attacks. They don't do much more damage compared to light attacks. Other than breaking this guy's shield, which come to speak of it, I don't think I've ever seen him use his kettlebell once. It really just serves no purpose. There were certain enemies that I found to be extremely annoying to fight against because of how poorly combat works. Trying to hit range attacks with your own range attack to disrupt them doesn't work very well when there's multiple enemies around, mainly because the game doesn't prioritize the range attacker, and other times it just didn't work. Another thing that doesn't work well in mid-fight engagements is the grabbing mechanic. Why?
Because it's too f***ing slow.
I would try to grab someone to finish them off, pause, but instead I would either be disrupted by an attack, or if I was lucky enough to actually get into the finishing animation, my character would just not flinch but still take the damage. Either way, I was taking damage and it was just annoying to deal with. As for the skill tree, most unlocks are super obscure. There are very few gameplay changing abilities. Some of my favorite upgrades come from Nightwing, like mark an enemy to receive a 10% damage bonus, and better yet, Nightwing's darts can also reduce enemies' defenses by 10%, and increase damage inflicted by allies by 5% for 10 seconds. Who the fuck cares? Give me some cool shit. Give me something that makes traversal quicker. Something that gets rid of the weird floaty grapple hook system. A booster for my bike. Something, please. Combat desperately wants to be complex, but it's not. Don't get me started on the character customization transmogs bullshit. It's exactly what I said it was going to be. You know, just make sure that stats show green. Green mean good. Bigger number, good. It has no depth. Number 4, city. Nothing interesting happens in this huge lifeless city. It's so dull and lifeless, I never want to go exploring because traversal is god-awful and the game can't handle me getting around the city too quickly. Looting is super rewarding. And the city is a city, it's just not Gotham City. I felt it looked a bit too generic and didn't have enough of Gotham's notorious Art Deco style. Originally, I had thought that the city looked pretty good, but throughout gameplay, I believe WB Montreal went with a more modern approach, and the occasional pointy Gothic architecture coupled with fog effects, it wasn't enough to make it Gotham. That's just my opinion. It wasn't for me. Residents and enemies did not sound like they were local. Gotham being loosely based on Jersey, you're never gonna hear.
It's the freaking band!
Hey, where's the freaking gabagoo?
Unfortunately, there is little of that, and the majority sounded like,
I remember saying I wanted to win, not lose.
This hero's about to burn!
This is your last day alive, vigilante. Stupid vigilantes, always running off.
If we lose now, we have to answer to the boss. Get away from her. I'm not scared
did
of
she
you.
just
You don't scare me.
howl?
Make it stop!
A good way to counter this is to turn dialogue all the way down. I will say that one thing I did appreciate was the Court of the Owls. I think Warner Brothers Montreal did a great job of capturing the creepy nature of the mysterious court. Every time I was in one of the dens, the environment felt just right. I think it captured the look very well, and I know it captured that creepy feeling that they were trying to set. And finally, number 5, story. After that 5-hour long cutscene, which is where I think most of their budget went, within the first few seconds, Ra's al Ghul ambushing Batman, it was then clear that the Lazarus Pit would have some involvement in bringing back, surprise, surprise, Batman, which is exactly what happened. Then, Bruce's super wealthy uncle, Jacob Kane, would be the head of the court. No way, I didn't see that one coming. he wasn't suspicious at all. I would say the only unexpected part was when Batman would off himself for the second time to destroy the Lazarus Pit after giving that rather moving speech about the greed of the rich. Odd way of wrapping up Batman's legacy, but they really did commit to his death, I guess, so that was rad. And the story wasn't that long. The side missions made up the chunk of the game, and for the most part, it was just a bunch of soulless filler that seemed to be never ending. The premeditated crimes around the city are not fun because combat isn't fun to play. Separate missions like saving the hostages forces you to be stealthy, but because of clunky movement and dumb AI, it's easy to be spotted, and if you are, that mission is pretty much a guaranteed failure because combat takes too long to complete, so those hostages are dead. Oh, how could I forget the super involved crimes sprawled across Gotham? This is pretty much how they go. All right, move this thing here and move that thing there. Did that work? Nope. Okay, let's try another combination. Move that thing there, move that one there. Did that work? No. Okay. Ooh, want to skip our boring crime scene investigation? Yeah, kinda. There you go. Oh, sweet. Thanks. Here you go, sport. Here's some materials that mean absolutely nothing. So, wait, that's it? Yeah, don't we call in the police to pick up the dead body? Don't be ridiculous. You did a great job. Pack it up, man. Let's get to the next one. Sick. Ultimately, I found that the game failed to bring forth any real emotion out of me, and I think it is mostly due to the writing. It was hard for me to be invested with these characters because dialogue was so cringy and over-exaggerated. I couldn't deal with the angsty Red Hood where he's supposed to be this stupid meathead, Dick kinda just being on neutral ground, Tim being the cringiest being of all time, and Barbara's voice acting being so off-putting. I just couldn't get invested into these characters' internal struggles, especially knowing that Batman would eventually return. On top of that, I never understood why cutscenes would fade to white and hit me harder than a Modern Warfare 2 flashbang.
Deploying flashbang.
My eyes! So in conclusion, this game was one of the biggest disappointments of all time.
Well, that's your fault for comparing it to art.
I know it seems like I'm being unfair and that I'm just hating, but believe it or not, I really wanted this game to succeed. Back in 2020, if you had told me that this game would be overwhelmingly mid, I would have never believed you. I'm just frustrated because I feel that the game is severely lacking in inspiration and love from top to bottom. Gameplay, story, environment, it all feels rushed, thrown together, or just unprepared, whatever you want to call it. It's wasted potential. And now we have to wait for however many years to receive a more competent Batman-related title. I know that people feel completely different, just the opposite, think the game is great and that it delivered on everything and that I'm just being too harsh, but to that I would say, want more. Do better. In all seriousness, there is no shame in liking bad games, but there is no way you can tell me that this game should be in the running for Game of the Year next to Elden Ring and God of War Ragnarok. Stop it. Originally, I was going to suggest to hold off until the holidays till the sales come. As of today, November 20th, 2022, on the Xbox store, it looks like Gotham Knights is currently on sale, only a month after its release. And oh, would you look at that? It looks like the deal is even greater on Steam. If that's not telling, I really don't know what else to tell you. So if you're tired of people either complaining or praising the game and you just want to test it out yourself, don't. Just kidding, that's your choice, but now would be a great time to make that decision. I could go on forever on how this game is poo-poo, but I need to move on to bigger and better things. I'm relatively new to this YouTube thing, and I would love to create consistent content on this channel. I know it seems like I like to bash on games, but I really do have a passion for games, and I think that's why I'm being so hard on this one. I enjoy playing all kinds of games, and one that is coming out, or will already be out by the time I upload this video, being Miles Morales. I have never played it and have not spoiled anything for myself yet. I did the same exact thing for Spider-Man because I am on PC and I don't have a PS5, so I tried to keep spoilers at a minimum and just wanted to play the game for myself. So if you like to see another person playing Miles for the first time, you know what to do. I am super into installing mods for Spider-Man PC, and I look forward to doing the same with Miles. So you guys let me know if you'd be interested in seeing a mod showcase of some sort. Thank you for your guys' time, and until next time.